Hello and welcome to another episode of the Opus Well Style podcast. My name is Evan Watanabe. I'll be your host with my partner Evan Wohl. Evan, what's going on, man? Good afternoon. How are you?
Doing great. Looking forward to another great conversation on a topic that impacts all of us and us a little bit more down the road, but looking forward to it.
Absolutely, for sure. I'm trying to do my best Steve Jobs impression with this sweater as I'm looking at the camera. I look ridiculous. But anyways, welcome to our guest today, Kate Stone. Kate from Kate Stone Prep. Kate, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you on. Really interested in and have been learning and reading a ton about your new business, or your nice new business, your business on college prep. And so we're really excited to have you on.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, we're not necessarily new. I've been doing this a long time, but we've got a big mission. So we turned up the dial about 3 years ago, and focusing our business hyper locally. So it's a very different business than it was when it was just me doing it. So
awesome. Well, why don't we start there? Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about you, about the business, kind of where you are today, and we'll go from there.
So briefly, I got my start 15 years ago. I was actually an actor. And if you know anything about acting, you know that you need a plan B. you need, and I had this great gig where I could travel around the world, and I was, my bread and butter was national commercials. It was a great industry, well paid at the time, not so much anymore with new media, but at the time I had a really wonderful career. Travel all over the world, Mexico City, Portugal, Thailand, and I really enjoyed teaching. I had, gotten my education degree at NYU. I had done a teaching fellowship through Princeton University in Asia. I'd lived over there for a long time, and so I never wanted to give up teaching. Also because I had a mentor who said to me early on, don't let this go. Keep this around in your life. And I had a boyfriend at the time who advised me that tutoring was very underpaid, and he said, you better find a hyper niche. And I did some research, and I found college essays, which was the perfect mesh for my skill set. Storytelling, young people, mentorship, going through this last rite of passage in our culture. And I was like, I basically just created this business out of thin air. I did all the research. Who were the people online who were doing this at the highest level? Cold emailed 50 people. One guy responded. I was one of his first coaches, Ethan Sawyer, the college essay guy. He invited me down to a workshop in the Valley. I attended, and he trained me up for about 8 years. And through that process, I ended up getting other mentors at Stanford, from Stanford admissions, Princeton admissions, and I really learned how to package very competitive applicants, and most of my students were some of the most competitive applicants, not just in the country, but in the world. So I understand, when parents come to me and they say, oh, we want to go to Georgetown, it's like, okay, let's have a conversation, because I need to tell you what you're up against. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's the ante is only getting upped every year. It's crazy. And, people hate on me online for spreading the message. And I didn't invent the game. I just teach you how to play it.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what the business is? What is Kate Stone Prep? What do you do?
Right.
Who's your client base?
So what we do is prepare students for college, career, and life through mentorship, real-world experience, and education. Now, in a lot of ways, we fill the gap that schools don't fill, which is they don't teach you how to find mentors. They don't teach you how to cold email or build lists or figure out what you want to do in the future. It's all right now, here in the present. But what we are teaching students how to do is think way bigger. We focus on special projects that require three things. They have to be bigger than you thought possible. They have to teach you hard and soft skills. And they will require mentorship. They are so big. So when all these other companies, and I'm not going to name names, are go write a blog, that'll help you stand out in Georgetown, we're no. No, that's not it. You have to think so big if you really want this goal that you have to make yourself unreasonably competitive. Mm-hmm. And that is the only way to win it. Yeah. Don't gamble. If you're going to go for it and you want it, go for it. Don't be I'll do a research paper, because that's not going to do it either.
Yeah. How competitive is the landscape right now to get into a top? I don't even know what a top tier college would look like these days. But like even maybe a
well, it depends.
Tier college. Like how tough is it these days?
And I want to know, why is it so much more competitive now than it was 15, 20 years ago? I hear all the time, like, my kids, or if I was applying to, not me, but like if I was applying to the college I went to now, I would never get in. I hear that all the time, and I can never, like, why is that?
A couple of reasons. Supply and demand, number one. Number two, the Common App. Press of a button. It's the same thing that's happened with Indeed and getting a entry-level job. It's actually harder to get an entry-level job right now than it is to get into Harvard. And that's because with a press of a button, like where they used to get, 50 applicants, they're getting like 5,000. How do you sift through that? So actually we have, obviously we work with students starting early. We even have like a 6th grader right now. But 7th, 8th grade, this is prime time to figure out what are your talents, what are the things that you're naturally good at, and then how can we leverage that so that when we start to identify some interests, which obviously change when you're young, we can do more within those interests. So it's not these one-off things or not taking them this far. We're like, if we're going to go do this thing, let's take it all the way and really build some skills. So in some ways, our college coaching business will eventually become the solution to the education problem in this country, which is that kids are graduating college totally unprepared for the real world. Mm-hmm. They are not getting jobs because they have no skills. But if you have skills, you have an advantage.
So, what it sounds like to me is that most people these days, and hey, I need to write a nice essay or a great essay. I need to, have a couple of AP classes. I need to, maybe I need to do some volunteer work or some charity work. And that was like, that
old
like
model.
set you apart 15 years ago, right? That sounds like
that's
today,
a dead model.
That's like having a business card. It's just like nobody uses it, but like it's a baseline, right? It is like the entry level, here's exactly what you need to just be a basic candidate or an applicant these days, is to have those things. Is that kind of what you're hearing and what you're seeing? I mean, all the things
we
I
talk
read
about
are
that.
just doing that.
Yeah, we talk about that in our family college night. We run free events for the community. Look, for me, as somebody who gets to see these kids at the end of their education and see how unprepared they are, it's painful. Mm-hmm. And it's disappointing for the kids, who then I have to coach through like not just foundational critical thinking skills, writing skills, setting goals skills. Like, they haven't thought through anything. And so it's like a hack job by the time we get to senior year to build a competitive application versus building it into them starting in 8th, 9th grade, where they're doing big projects, they're setting big goals, they're accomplishing and executing in a fairly short period of time. I will mind you, like, parents think, oh, well, that's the exception. That's the exception. This is just like some crazy kid. No, these kids are not exceptional. It's about identifying where their genius lies, getting them to think about a goal that's so big that it scares them and it activates them. It changes all this anxiety that this generation is experiencing into excitement, because that's all anxiety is. It's just untapped potential. It's like they just don't have a big enough goal to focus on. Mm-hmm. They're kept very small. The belief lids are very small. And so once we activate that, like, any kid can accomplish insane things. And we have so many stories from our family college night, and dads always come in and they're the most skeptical. They're always the ones who are like, no, this is just like, we're not. And then as soon as they start hearing what we're doing with, like, we had one kid who was our lowest performing kid. He signed up with us in January. He showed up in pajamas to the family college night, like, not able to present well, just not really caring. And once we got a hold of him, we figured out what we have to work with their goal. Like, we're not your college coach that's like, here, do this for colleges. No, that's not what we're about. It's about authenticity. It's about figuring out what lights you up, what will motivate you, and then giving you the plan and the strategy to go towards that. And this kid always wanted to be an FBI agent. Like, he had this time capsule thing. And we found this FBI program at Yale And we didn't think he was going to get in. It's like 15 kids get in every year. It's a selective program. And when we helped him write his essay, his dad wrote some ChatGPT thing, like it was all fluff. And we're like, no, just be honest, be authentic, say actually, like, I am not qualified for this program, but I have this dream, and I've had this dream since I was a kid. I had this time capsule I opened, and he got into the program just from being honest. And we've seen a complete turnaround. I mean, he was up at 5 a.m. during this program running with like all these kids. And he showed up at the office, shook my hand, sat down, looked me in the eye. And he's like, yeah, I'm running every morning. He's like, it was really hard. I was like, you liked it though, right? He's like, yeah. So it's about getting to them in a way that gets them like excited again. And I'm sorry, but there are not enough inspiring adults in education right now, or those adults are strangled by the system. So they can't really inspire kids in the way that we, outside of the system, have way more freedom to essentially break all the rules and do things that actually will help you in college admissions. Like, funnily enough, if you go live an amazing life, people are interested in that. Mm-hmm. Fascinating. But have you lived an amazing life? I know I have. So I have the permission to expect that of young people, Do you know what I mean? Like, we have extremely high expectations, but we walk our talk too, Yeah,
and so the organization itself is really meant to stack on top and to amplify the normal education that they're
Absolutely.
Going through, right?
Yeah.
And then to provide an experience, whether it's a business or some other activity that makes them more compelling and more, frankly, interesting as a human being to be a candidate for college. Is that kind of how it works?
Yes. And look, most colleges are they're judging you based on two things. What have you done? Mm-hmm. Or what will you do? Will you bestow prestige upon our school? Will you mesh with the people at this school in ways that will produce interesting projects, interesting culture, interesting experiences for everyone? Will you add to the room? And that's how these top colleges think. Like, I used to have a lot of friends that went to, Harvard and Yale and Princeton, and, you go to dinner with them and it's like, what can you add in terms of intellectual property, intellectual value, experiential value? What can you bring into this conversation that will make it better? Right. And I think that's what these schools are looking for. And so if you for students who are coming a little bit late, like, we can still do so much junior year. There's still so much time. It's never too late. Rising seniors, maybe a little late. It may be a little late, but we work with students, like most college coaches stop when you get to like January once things are submitted, but we're working with students until they go off to college. Like, what do you need to support you? What's your plan? Where are you going? And then we have the career placement program, which we start freshman year with like building your network, figuring out what your job is going to be, what you're going to do that next summer. I was at a conference recently, and this young guy who's working for this like really interesting health startup, and we were like, what do you look for in young applicants? And he's like, have you done something, and can you prove that through measurable outcomes? And so that's what we're trying to get students to do, measurable outcomes. Whether it's like independent studies, getting them certifications, whether it's a big special project that requires like a lot of different skills and mentors and different elements and levels and layers to it. It's not about just doing this one, if I do one research paper, I'm going to get into Princeton. No, it's about multi-layered, multi-leveled like integration of a big project, and that should connect to some big vision, some goal, some hyper-specific niche. And that's kind of how we play the game. And while that may change, our motto is just like commit fully. And when it changes, you're gonna at least have something under your belt to help launch you.
It's very clear to me why you have such an incredible growing business. Like, it's a clear mission, and you speak very passionately. I love hearing it. When you're setting these...
I'm so full on. I'm so full on.
I love it.
No, because
I wish there were more people like you in all of our kids' lives.
Oh,
who wouldn't say that? But when you're when you're helping these kids set these big goals, these big audacious goals that they're not sure they can reach, inevitably they're going to hit some hard times.
Dude,
so how
architect
do you,
failure. Architect failure. Yes.
How do you keep them like pushing and resilient through that? Is it more than just like it, because I assume if they just think this is just about getting into college, inevitably when they come up upon some failure, that's not going to be enough to get them through.
Well, that's typically the people we work with. We've gotten very, very good at, and luckily we're in a great position to be able to like really push back. We're not in a position, we're not trying to sell you, because this is such an intense experience to work with us that the whole family has to be on board. Like if somebody's not sold on the product, you're not the right family for us. If you don't get what we're about, then we are not the right family for you, because we can't win. And we are winning. And in order to win, everyone needs to have drunk our Kool-Aid. Like, you want something more. You feel like you deserve a better education. You want to achieve in the world. You feel like your potential is untapped in these schools. They're not doing enough. You know, it's just the basics. They're getting the absolute basics of education. It's really not like, honestly, when I have children and putting them through the system, I don't think I will. I think I'm going to create a whole different curriculum, which is going to be our curriculum. But you're talking about failure and how do you keep them focused? Here it is. We keep them focused because they're driving the process. Okay? So they make the decisions. It's not like the college coach is here, like the consultant up in, the ivory tower saying, okay, you need to do this. And we're not just telling you what to do. Most college coaches are like, here, go do this. Oh, how likely is a student going to be like, oh, I need to do this project and actually implement that? They're not. So when people say, oh, will you just give us a project idea? How can we guarantee success if we just give you a project idea? It makes zero sense. That's why we don't hide our process and our ideas, because if you can implement that, you deserve to steal that idea.
I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. You're right. It is very much like, here's the basic blocking and tackling of this, but there's the execution of it, right? That makes it special. Like, I can have an idea for a business all day long, but unless, we have the team around us to be able to kind of execute on the strategy, then it's worthless, right?
Yeah.
So, are there any basic blocking and tackling things around the essays or things that you're recommending there that
my forte. This is like my whole area. Yeah. So first of all, I hired my old colleague. We came up in the same company, the College Essay Guy, together. And she was brilliant then. I always looked up to her. So the fact that I got to hire her, I'm like stoked. We're like every Monday we're like pouring through these essays, and we are putting these kids through the writing ringer. Like, none of them know how to construct a sentence, let alone an entire narrative. I'm not kidding you. It's scary out there. Read your kids' writing, everybody. Read their writing. They're not learning how to outline. They're not learning how to truly revise anything. There's just not enough. How can an English teacher do that? Like, line by line by line. It's too, it takes me sometimes 45 minutes to an hour to really thoroughly review a 650 word draft. It's usually like about a 900 word draft by the time I get a first draft. And to really like evaluate it properly takes a long time. English teachers they can't do that. It's just an impossible task. So with the writing of the essays, it's all their own work. It's all their own writing. But we're probably taking them like 2 to 3 grade levels. Most of these students are writing, like some are writing at a 5th grade level, some are writing at an 8th grade level. Like, they're not writing, and if you look at the data, those who are graduating college with advanced reading and writing skills, 4%. Those graduating with a C level reading and writing skill, grade C level, is about 24%. That means everybody else is losing the ability to read and write, which means you're losing the ability to think and speak. Mm-hmm. So that's disturbing. But here's what I say: there's a lot of rules around this college essay genre. And you have to know what the genre is. Like, I have to explain this to parents. They're trying to understand who you are at a human level. Like, what can they learn about you from this personal statement that is, like, that cannot be found in the paperwork? And then what do you choose to write about? What does that say about you? And ideally, you should be communicating some vulnerability, some change or discovery, your core values, the things that motivate you and drive you. You want to focus on really understanding structure before you have your topic. Like, if you have an idea for an essay, outline it, because it's very, very revealing. Do not have your kids start drafting before they outline, parents, because the outline will reveal whether or not the topic is working at all. And if you start drafting too soon, what happens is it's just impossible to revise from full sentences at that point. They're already attached to it. It's a tangled mess. Always go back to outlining. They don't like it, but they have to do it. And in the end, it'll save you buckets and loads of time, and it'll actually get you a better end product. The other thing that I want to say to parents regarding the essay is, like, if you can figure out what brings you joy, write about that, because inevitably that will transfer onto the page. If you're like, I had a couple students, like, we had a couple topics that just weren't working, and I wasn't fighting it too hard, because I think it's good to have a kid like struggle through that. Like, I usually have an idea of what the better idea is going to be, but I don't like to give it to students right away, because they won't appreciate it. Like, how many times in my career have I like given this amazing topic, a reflection or idea or insight to a student, and they're like, they can't see it. But if they struggle through it and they suffer a little bit through trying to figure out an essay that's not working, once I go, hey, why don't we try this? It, like, they get into this, like, they lock down, they get into the flow. And like, one of my students, who's not a super exceptional writer by any means, he wrote one of the best college essays I've ever read in my career. So we just have we've leveled up a lot. Like, our writing resources are amazing, and students are really put through it. They really learn. And thank God I have Bonnie, who's a master's of literature from Stanford, who's currently writing a book on the mechanics of audio storytelling and craft. Like, she's just amazing. So we just have the best of the best.
What made that essay the best you've ever read?
Because he was writing about fly fishing, and it was like these very subtle reflections about, it was about fly fishing, but really it was about the place in which he feels most at home, which is North Carolina along the Green River. And it's got this, like, Where the Red Fern Grows vibe, this, like, Hemingway vibe. And it, like, he's like this old Southern man trapped in a 17-year-old's body, and you, like, get him. And he doesn't hit you over the head with his reflections. It's so subtle, so beautiful. He's not, like, ramming it down your throat. It's really elegant. It's very, very elegant. And I was wow.
It wasn't necessarily about his, like, goals or ambition. It was just about
who he
was.
It was about the qualities he's developed through fly fishing, how the place in which he fly fishes has shaped who he is and his values, and how ultimately it's centered on, like, what he loves about his country. It's, like, taught him about the complexities and the dynamics of a very complex country, and he wants to pursue politics and service country. So it was just a very, again, like, it's just one of those essays that you're like, wow, this is hitting all the notes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
I think he could get into I think he's going to get into a school just based off his essay, if I'm being totally honest.
So the idea behind the essay is really to just paint the picture that the application itself won't
the human component.
Got it.
Yeah,
it's like, who is this person? How do I explain it? How do they get to know me as best as possible?
Well, look, in storytelling is this is like the one place in the entire application where you actually have influence over your reader. Mm-hmm. Because storytelling suspends critical thinking, analytical thought, judgment. So if you can talk about something from the heart that brings you joy, have a good structure to it, have some really hard-hitting reflections, and paint very vivid images, you've got them in the palm of your hand. You actually have the power to sway their opinion and be memorable to them. So
are you saying that people should not use ChatGPT or any other AI
Oh, God,
at all,
no.
or use it just
No.
for like grammar
No.
or structure or
Nope.
nothing at all?
I would say no. And as somebody who uses this like 100 times a day, it's just not there yet. It's not good enough. And what happens is like with students who don't know how to write, they don't know how to use ChatGPT because they don't know the foundations of writing to begin with. If you did, maybe you could use it effectively, but they don't have it.
They don't know what questions to ask or how to
Well,
prompt it.
they don't even know what good writing is. So when so it ends up sounding totally flat, voiceless. Like it sounds robotic.
Right.
And then also what happens is even when you ask it to help you outline, you lose, it muddles their thinking because now they're relying on this like AI source to tell them the trajectory of the narrative instead of actually going inside their own head and thinking about the organic trajectory of their own narrative that might be different from what a computer is going to spit out. And so it ends up just muddling their thoughts completely. Like the students who use ChatGPT, like trying to get them to an original thought after they've done that is like a gnarly job for me.
Because they're still trying to figure out like how they input it in the first place.
Because they're attached to this
Yeah.
thing that like sounded good but was meaningless.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it sounds good, to be honest. And I can spot ChatGPT AI from a mile away, my friends. It's bad.
Right.
I had to ask a student the other day, like, he is so sorry if I'm using bad language, but I'm kind of like, I shoot from the hip a little bit, but he's so screwed because he used it in these essays and now he can't get back to his own ideas. And now he's stuck in this tangle of nonsense.
Yeah.
And now I have to help him. After this session, I have to help him basically break it all down, start from scratch, all over again. Because he tried to take a shortcut that didn't work.
Are there any other pitfalls or any other things that are common that you see people kind of like doing on a regular basis where you're having to correct it, or that you just see other let's call them college coaches giving advice on that you just feel like is super outdated or doesn't apply anymore?
I mean, most of them. They're all like summer programs, do some volunteer work, let's decide what course selection you're going to do. It's all the same. Because they only meet with you if you hire like a $5,000 to $10,000 coach or whatever. You're only meeting like once or twice a semester. Mm-hmm. Like we're meeting every week
to help actually execute on these big ideas that you have, right? So that is the big differentiator between Cane Stone Prep and these.
They're all
others.
down here, like thinking about like moving chairs around on the deck of the Titanic, and we're like, let's blow past that. Let's go all the way up. Let's think way bigger and do something amazing and make college obsolete to you. Like great, you'll have your pick of where you want to go, or. We have a dad who was initially really skeptical who found out, he's like, what are you actually doing? Like, this was before we got super dialed in to make sure that parents were on like those first several initial calls, like working with the whole family, getting everyone on board. These things, our ideas are so big now. We're like, no, everybody has to be involved until we get this thing like gathering momentum. But he was like, what are you doing? And when we showed him, like we were teaching her how to fundraise for this big project she was working on at school. She was having to do sales decks. She was like building relationships with this international school. And he was like, oh my God, she has those skills? Like I'd hire her, I'd hire my own daughter.
I'm guessing you come across some situations where the parents want it a little bit more or a lot more than the students. Do you see that much, and how do you handle it?
You know what? It's a top down, I think, in families. If you've got a family that sees the value of what we do, then the kids are going to be different. It's about family culture. Like, have you cultivated in your, like, the families that we don't work with are usually typically the ones that are inhibited by the parents' ability to think bigger. We're all adults. We've all seen things not work out. We've all gotten realistic in our life, and that's a dangerous place to be and to kind of like end up in, where if you aren't like somewhat delusional and ambitious and excited and uninhibited by what could be possible for you, let alone your child, then it's very hard for your child to like develop that. So the child follows the parent. Like, how open and creative and how much do they feel? The parent wants part of this too. that's the fascinating thing. It's like the parents are like just as excited as the kids. Like we have a family we just signed up. Both of their older kids are at Yale studying like some engineering or whatever, and their younger daughter, you know, they call her like the black sheep or whatever. She's not. She's great. But they had, you know, she wasn't necessarily like the most intellectually like in the box one. And within a few sessions, like they're more excited about their younger daughter and the project we're going to do with her than their older kids, you know, like, which is so cool. And it's just getting people to think differently. We're moving into a different reality, a different world, different economic reality. The future is going to look very different. And how do we prepare people for that? We just step outside the system. It's become, for us, you know, we're college coaches. Yes, like that's our goal. That's my specialty. That's what I do. But it's like way beyond that. Yeah. Way beyond that. Because then the next thing, like, great, you got into a good college, but have you any idea like what you're going to do after that? You know, and most people float around for like 10, 20 years. So what we're trying to do is teach kids how to find more of a purpose and a focus and a direction, and prevent that, like what I call like, what my colleague Bonnie calls the drift, which is like a lack of focus, a lack of intention. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, it's amazing how many people I remember going to undergrad with that just like went and got their MBA because they didn't know what to do next. You know, they went and got in $200,000 of debt because they didn't really know what to do next. They go to law school because they were like, I guess I got good grades and I understood how to read, or, you know, you find a lot of that. You know, as they try to figure it out, they just figure education, continued education in one particular thing. And
we'll solve it.
Yeah, and then they end up, you know, hating their law career and having to either pivot or just like really just be disappointed with what's next. So I love the idea of having this kind of go beyond just how do I get into college as like this one particular thing, but how do I think about creating a person, right? And that seems to start like way earlier for you guys.
It is. It's cultivating fully fledged, multidimensional, purposeful, intentional people. Like, our goal is to have an impact. Like, in a lot of the people we work with are obviously, we are influencing people who influence people. Mm-hmm. People who are at the top of their industry. And that's a very exciting place, because in some ways, like, we have the most potential to impact the culture because we're at the very top. And that's a very exciting place to be. Like, if we can affect their kids, it sort of does like trickle down in some ways, the influence of the choices that they're making. But I do want to say one thing I left out is, like, a lot of kids think they want something, right? Or they think, oh, I wanted to be a plastic surgeon, or I'll do what my mom does in corporate law or whatever, and contract law. And the mom's like, no, I hate my job. And so we help them also like see the realities of it. We run the math, we run the salary, the potential salaries, the potential career advancements. You know, you can do all of this through AI, and then we start doing the math of like, you know, where do you want to live? What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? How many kids do you want to have? What's the financial realities of that? And kids start to go, oh, it's really expensive to have the life I want. Yeah. You know, and then they can start to make more informed decisions and choices based on actual numbers.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Kate, as we kind of wrap up, where can the listening audience find out about you, about
sure,
about the company? Where can they get more of your content? You know, fill us in.
Well, I'm very active on Instagram. I'm growing my Instagram channel. I'm at 16,500 followers, which is wild. It totally exploded our business. But it took 3 years of posting every day. Like studying it.
An overnight success after 15 years.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows what it takes. Handle? It's Kate France Stone. Like Kate, Kate, France is in the country, and then Stone. And the other place you can go check us out is, if you're local, go to katestoneprep.com/events. You'll be able to see all of our free events. I run free essay and application workshops 3 or 4 times a month, as well as our big family college night, which is especially good if you're starting younger and you want to understand like really what our process is. And we run you through exercise. It's interactive, so we've really we've been doing this now once a month since January, and it's like at a point where now we're having a lot of fun. Students, our families are walking away with a lot of good ideas at the end of it too. So this is definitely going to blow the top off of, like, we had a parent last night in our essay and application workshop strategy event where she was like, everything I thought I should be doing is wrong. Like, that's what you're going to walk away with, and do it early. Don't wait. Like, time is you have such a short window with your kids to influence them and affect the direction of their life. Like, this is the time, and you can find their genius. You can identify, goals that they have. They can accomplish a lot before they ever even go to college. You can set them on a really good path, and you just need the right information. And there's so much bad information out there.
Well, yeah. Kate, listen, we really appreciate you coming on. This was enlightening for me.
Sure.
Cool. I'm sure the listening audience got a ton of info from it. So
glad to hear it.
Really appreciate you coming on, and thanks for the time.
Thank you so much, guys. A pleasure.
Absolutely. You got one more follow from me.
Audience,
what's that?
What'd you say, Ev?
You got one more Instagram follower from me, so one extra one.
16,501.
There you go.
And to you, the listening audience, thanks for tuning in. Please click subscribe below to be notified when we release our next podcast episode. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.